Thanks. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, whenever you're watching this. It's really great to talk with you a little bit about what it's like to enroll in and complete a PhD here at QUT. So we are trialing a new system this year, and the first step is an EOI, an expression of interest. And that's due around September, and it goes to our research team, and they'll evaluate from that EOI whether you're eligible for direct entry into a PhD. And typically, to be eligible for a direct entry into a PhD, you would have needed to complete an honours degree, so a 4 years honours degree or a research master's, and be able to show a reasonable amount of research experience and training. But that's an evaluation that our administrative team will make based on the information you provide, usually transcripts of your study. So that's step one, an EOI. At that step, you may or may not have a clear idea about what your project might be or who your supervisor is. And that's okay. But the next step, if you are eligible to do a PhD or a master's, you need to find a supervisor. And the best way to do that is just actually to do a general Google search. If you're interested in studying, I should have thought about what an example could be, but maybe how to make an iPhone more intuitive in use, and that's what really interests you, then search the words iPhone or technology intuitive use QUT and see the academics that come up, and then drop them an email introducing yourself and saying, hey, I'm eligible to do a PhD or master's at QUT, and I'd really like to study with you. This is my idea for a topic, attached as my CV. Could we have a quick Zoom to talk about it? So that's step two. And then you need to, once you've successfully got EOI in terms of being eligible to study and found a supervisor who's willing to supervise you, you need to complete an application form. And again, just follow all this information from the QUT website. That application form is two things. One, it's an application to study here, but two, it's for a scholarship. And you'll find out those are very competitive, but you'll find out the outcome towards the end of the year. So the completion of the application form is what's called stage one. And I'm sorry for all this terminology, but at least it gives you a sense of what you go through. So you're at stage one, okay? Once you're admitted to a PhD or you're a PhD student, the first milestone is 3 months in, you have to submit what's called stage two. And this is a fuller description of what you're going to do in your study. So in your stage one, your application to study, you would have outlined over a page or two what you might do, and you spend your first 3 months at QUT figuring out exactly what am I going to do? Am I going to do, interviews, and how many people? Am I going to do surveys? And I'm going to do some co-design activities, and you research and you involve yourself in terms of the literature. So it's very much a planning stage. And stage two gets assessed internally, and gets a tick or some feedback, and on you go. Your first year is very much planning and exploring and researching and developing your ideas and making sure that the research question and the research process that you engage in will get you the answers you want. And so at the end of the first year, you'll have what's called a confirmation of candidature or a COC seminar. And this is quite a significant milestone. It involves a physical presentation, or probably virtual, where you present over about 45 minutes or an hour, a PowerPoint presentation about your research question, how it sits into the literature, what you're planning to do. And you also, alongside that presentation, submit a written document, quite a significant written document that outlines all of that. That's submitted to a panel who will give you some feedback, answer some questions. At the end of this 1 year confirmation of candidature milestone, a decision is made about whether to formally admit you into the PhD course or not. And most people will get admitted, but there are options for doing, getting some feedback and making some changes. So it's a really critical milestone. And then you're off. You'll also have to submit at that year one milestone an ethics application if your research involves people. So we've got a real clear idea of what you're going to do, and that you know your ethical responsibilities and what's involved in doing research with people. So then you are off, and you spend the next 2 years or so doing your study, working closely with your supervisors. Usually there's 2 supervisors, a principal supervisor and associate. Sometimes there's more. You might have an industry mentor on your team. And again, that's something you will talk about with your supervision team, about what you need, what your team should look like. So you might need someone from design, but if you're doing a health-related project, you might have a designer and also someone from health. If it's a project in hospitals, you might have a nurse on the team. Again, it really does just depend. So your next 2 years, you're pretty much just continue on doing all kinds of things. You have an annual report that you need to do, and your PhD studies accumulate at year 3, at the end of year 3, when after 3 years of solid full-time work or full-time equivalent work, if you're a part-time student, you'll actually submit a draft thesis for internal review. So we have a milestone at QUT that we call final seminar, and that's where you get a chance before your PhD goes out for examination. It's examined by leading academics in the field, and they say, yes, Shelley, you've done a great thesis. Well done. This is a wonderful contribution to knowledge. And we didn't know before that, I don't know, the cases people put on their iPhones is really, really important, and it's something to do with their personality. And now we can use it in our marketing or our design, or I really should have thought about a better example. But that's whatever it is you've found in your topic, you will write that up. And at the final seminar, it's your chance. It's sort of a supportive environment where you can present a dry run of your arguments that will go out for examination. So again, similar as you did at confirmation of candidature, the milestone at the end of year 1, the end of year 3, it's a presentation and a formal document that a external panel from your supervisors will look at. You'll present, you'll leave the room, you'll come back in, they'll read the document, and you'll talk about how to improve it in the next steps, which most people will usually have 3 months post the final seminar to make the final tweaks and then submit it for examination. And then examination process takes usually, we say 3 months, can take up to 6 months. It takes a while. And then at the end of that, all going well, you get to call yourself a doctor. So that's a little bit of insight into the steps and the processes. It's very scaffolded here at QUT, and there's a number of opportunities and workshops for development along the way. But those are the major steps in doing a PhD. Master's is similar, but contracted into an 18-month process. But the first step really is to get your EI in, so your expression of interest, that you are interested, and start really thinking about who you might want to study with and reach out to them. Good luck.
Build a relationship.
Build a relationship. That's exactly right. And you know what? I've actually written a blog spot about how to identify a great supervisor, and I'll put the link to that.
I'll put it down the bottom.
Yeah, down below, because that actually gives you, often people say, well, how do I find a great PhD supervisor? And there's a number of things you can do. So once you've got a sense of who you might want to work with, have a conversation with them like this, get a sense of how they communicate and how you communicate. Ask them a number of questions. So ask them, how often do they meet with students? What kind of feedback do they give? What's their plan for supporting you? What's their views on PhD students holding part-time jobs? How many students have they supervised in the past, and where have they gone? What careers do they support them develop? Ask them definitely their supervision style, and have a think about what kind of supervision style suits you. So some student supervisors are quite hands-off and only touch base at critical moments, and others though are very regimented, and that's normally what we would expect, is you would touch base every 2 weeks or a month. But you need to have a conversation with your supervisor about what you expect and need and what they expect and need, and make sure you're on the same page, because when we have conflict or challenges, it's when that we haven't been clear about our expectations from the beginning. And so one of the things I wrote about in the blog post is that it's a really good idea just to have a little look, do some research about your supervisor. So check, what have they published in? Are they an expert in the field that you want to work in? And what do their former students say about them? And while it's ideal to talk to them if you can, anyone can look at students' masters and PhD theses on the internet and have a read through them and have a good look at their acknowledgement page. And you want to have the supervisor where the student says, I couldn't have got through this PhD or master's journey without the support of ex-supervisor. He was a rock star and was amazing and brilliant. You want that supervisor. You don't want the supervisor where the acknowledgement says, thank you to my supervisors, full stop. Okay, it's a simple trick. I mean, of course, some people are more, have more words and are more open, and but have a read through their whole acknowledgements and see how they've thanked other people, and then look at the tone they've used when they thank their supervisors, and just make that one element into the decision you make, because it's almost like going into a marriage. You're going to spend the next 3 years with this person, and if you have a very good marriage and a very good and clear communication style and engagement, then your PhD journey will be much, much better than if you're one that's a relationship that's full of conflict and disagreement, because right from the beginning you've really got just different priorities and see things very differently. So that's a few tips, and you know, if you're a design student, I really look forward to meeting you and engaging with you through the QUT Design Lab. Good luck.